Hey, everybody, it's Thursday. You know what that means? It's time for Building Wins Live Special Edition. Today, I am excited to have Carson, Vincent, Heady. This guy has got some great stuff to chat about with sales, and I'm really excited to bring him on. He's a special guest, thus a special edition. So hang on for just a minute, and we'll be back with Carson. Hey, here we are. So today, Carson is a special guest. Carson Vincent Heady. He is a perennial, I think is the word I want, a 1% sales pro. This guy speaks to me and what I like about sales and where we've been, where we're going. And Wes, why don't you bring on Carson? We'll just talk about him when he's here. He don't want to talk behind your back. There he is. How you doing, my friend?
Randy, I'm well. And yourself?
Oh, couldn't be better. I mean, it's I got my walk-in this morning, my first of two in the chilly. I know you're going to yell at me. Don't go off the screen. The chilly 71 degrees this morning. So
yeah, I had to make sure that the sidewalk was shoveled this morning. So,
yes, right. Yeah, because you're in St. Louis, right? At Cape Girardeau?
St. Louis. I grew up in Cape. Lived in St. Louis for a couple decades, and But yeah, we had a nice little snowfall yesterday.
Did you? So before we even get any other, so tell me, obviously living in St. Louis, you did the arts ride before, right? Probably a million times.
Right. Oh yeah.
Is it as weird to you the first time when you got in that thing and going, please don't shut the door? I mean, I don't know that that's the first time I recognize I might be claustrophobic because I didn't like that at all.
No, but I've never been a fan.
Yeah, that was not cool. So anyway, again, thank you for being on. I followed you. We're friends on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I love the energy and I love what you bring to the table of sales. I know I'm going to miss a couple things, but I know you're always a top 1%er. You're a top 50 author, I believe, on LinkedIn, sales books. Wrote a series that I've read one or two. I think I'm just finished up. I'm looking at it here, Salesman on Fire. Very nice series of sales books. And so maybe take 2, 3, 4 minutes and because I'd like my audience to know who is this crazy guy that I brought on today.
Yeah, no, you got that right. Definitely a crazy guy. Randy, it's an honor to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity to connect in this format. I've been in sales. I've been very fortunate to spend my last 20 years in sales and leadership capacity. And grew up in a small town. Lived in St. Louis 20 years, and I think where I've spent the majority of my career with AT&T and with Microsoft. And I've been at a few small and large organizations along the way. So it's given me a very good frame of reference. Working as an individual contributor, also as a leader, and been able to just surround myself with brilliant people. And so I've been very fortunate in that regard. About 10 years ago, I had a very serendipitous moment where I wrote a sales book, and I knew that it's been done many times, much better than I could probably do. So I tried to put a unique spin on what I wrote, and it was more of a book inside of a book. And I've always tried to take a very unique approach to how I presented those books. And so Birth of the Salesman was the first book that I wrote. Got it published the old-fashioned way, which was quite an endeavor, quite a process. But really, at the heart of all of it is that perseverance, never give up, and sales philosophies that help us be successful, whether as an individual contributor, as a team seller, whether you're selling in small organizations or enterprise type formats. So that book really opened a lot of doors for me. Since that time, I've been pulled into a lot of different opportunities and roles along the years. And that's where I wound up with Microsoft, where today I'm a senior account executive in our healthcare space, but I'm also the social selling lead for Microsoft Healthcare United States. I get to interact with people all over the world, which I've been very fortunate with. And then, as you mentioned, Salesman on Fire, I wrote that last year. Also took kind of a unique approach to it. It's very much of a biographical story of the fictional author. I got an idea from a book I read quite some time ago. So all of that said, I'm just a gentleman who's been very successful because of opportunities, seizing opportunities, creating opportunities, and great relationships that I've been able to forge along the way.
So I'm going to go a different direction because of something you just said. Realizing, seeing opportunities, right? So, and I think that's important because I think a lot of times it's easy to fall prey to not seeing opportunities because it doesn't fit some idea that probably you planted in your own mind or allowed somebody else to plant for you, right? And so you went in different directions because you were open to opportunities and had the guts to just say, something I like to say sometimes is you ask the question of why can't I as opposed to why I can't, right? And that's had to lead to a lot of your success, right? Because you didn't, probably a lot of people said, what are you going to write a book about, right? But you said, yeah, I can write a book and I will write a book.
Yeah, very well said. I think it's important if you want to be successful to understand that there's going to be a certain level of detractors and naysayers, and people say that you couldn't do this or shouldn't do that. And I think what's important is that you stay true to yourself. I think one thing that I've always done, and I think it's lended to my success, is that I will look for who's doing something well, what are the best practices, and then I emulate them. I make that part of my arsenal, but I also turn it into overdrive. And what I mean by that is, for instance, trying to get meetings. We spend a lot of our time as sellers trying to get meetings with business decision makers. And by going out and, finding them, you can find a lot of intel about them out on the internet today. You can talk to referrals and people that that they know them. But you want to do everything that you can to find these people. But instead of targeting 1, 2, 5, 10 people, I'll reach out to hundreds just to try to get relationships that are meaningful within that organization. At the same time, rather than coming out trying to describe what I think I can do to help them, I'm not that assumptive. I more go in with the approach of trying to add value right out of the gate. And I've even gone so far as to introduce people to competitors when that was the right solution. I just want to forge the relationship and see where I can help. And it's benefited me greatly because over the years, if those people move up, they move to other organizations, I maintain the relationship. And so focusing on people and on process has helped me tremendously, but also turning it up a notch where I focus on the numbers element of it. I know that if I try to reach out to 100 people as opposed to 5, I have a better probability of having success. There's a quality and quantity component to that outreach. And so putting people at the heart of everything that you're doing, be responsive, be communicative, be transparent. And if you're genuine in your approach, you can't help but be successful. I've also had a lot of losses, Randy. I think it's critical to point out that we all lose. We all have deals that go awry or situations that aren't what we go in hoping they will be. I just don't let any of them keep me down. I get up from each one and I learn from each one, and I take that learning into every future interaction that I have. And if you have that kind of mindset and that kind of approach, you can do it. I haven't done anything that anybody else couldn't replicate or do. I'm just a small town guy who won't give up.
Right. Well, two things you just hit on, Carson, I thought was pretty interesting. When you just said you have to analyze the loss, because it's not a loss if you extract a win out of it, right? So analyze the loss, and you have to be. I look at it as and it's applicable now with the NFL playoffs. If you're a kicker or a quarterback, probably the two places that would feel like this affects the most. If you as a quarterback threw a interception at a bad time, we go running off the field. Yes, you can throw the water bottle, slam your helmet, cuss and swear for a minute, but you better get rid of it, right? You better look at the playbook and see what you did wrong. Was it your receiver's fault? Was it your fault? What happened? But you better forget about it in about 12 seconds because there could be a turnover literally the next play, right? And you're back onto the field. Does that make sense? And I felt that's what you're kind of saying in my goofy roundabout way.
Without a doubt. There's an element, we all have emotions, right? But And anytime that something goes awry, it's very easy for us to wear that on our sleeve or be reactive based on those types of things. And I'm not saying that in my much younger days that I didn't befall those same things. However, um, as I've grown and matured in the workforce and in my career and in relationships, there's no benefit to having a quick reaction to negative situations. In fact, there's more to keeping your focus on the process and landing the step. There's a lot of time, especially in the era that we're in. I talk to sellers a lot that are just they're lacking motivation. Getting up and doing the same thing, working from home every single day, not being able to go out and meet with people face to face. Sometimes it's hard just to put one foot in front of the other, but you just got to focus on landing that one step. Don't focus too far ahead. And like you just said, if a play goes awry, you've got to drown that out. You've got to push that down immediately and move forward and focus on that very next play and give it your absolute all, because that's the only way that you're going to continue to find success. You can absolutely get knocked back a few steps from time to time, but nothing is going to keep you from progressing other than you.
Correct. Awesome. Well said. And the other thing you brought up that I thought was interesting is in today's world, especially, I guess, 2020, especially with the way that year's been, a lot of people talk about value adding value, bringing merit, delivering merit. I mean, any way you want to say it. What I always find is a little surprising to me is maybe I'm just way old school because I've been doing this 4+ decades. I mean, remember we talked off screen about I use 4 decades because that sounds better than 40 years. But I found that we talked about bringing value is part of what we do as sales professionals, or should be doing anyways, right? But it's kind of interesting to me that it's sometimes looked at as like this new, unique idea. Hey, you know what, Carson? I think we should bring value to our customers. That's not really old. That's not like brand new that we just thought of since the COVID deal, right? I mean, bringing value is probably 101 starting point, right?
Without a doubt. And it's probably an overused term. I think what people don't understand is they believe, and a lot of sellers do this, they believe that if you come and you indicate like, hey, we can do this, 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 and this, that somebody's just magically going to say, oh, sure, come on in and do that. It's not how it works. The value that you have to bring and deliver has to be personal to the person that you're speaking to. And there's a beauty in today's day and age where you can do a lot of industry research. You can follow the business journals and see what's transpiring within their business. You can see trends. You can see things that are happening within these organizations. So you should come with some level of insight. You can also see, where this person went to school. You can see what kind of groups they're in, what kind of hobbies they have, who they follow, what influencers they follow, if they write, if they blog. You can see a lot of these types of things. So you're coming armed with a lot of this intel, hopefully, and you're using it to your advantage. But the thing that I think a lot of people miss is that everybody wants a win. And so if I'm a business owner, or if I'm in a position of authority or influence in my organization, am I going to care about a laundry list of things that your organization can do? Not necessarily. But what I will care about is if you come to me with a different type of refreshing message, or maybe you come to me with a personal touch, or you come to me asking for just a meeting where you can see if there might be a fit, or if it makes sense to partner or collaborate beyond just selling me something. Now, I think the other piece that a lot of times we miss is that, again, everybody wants to win. I have what I call the holy sales trinity. It's the customer, the company, and you. So your company, your organization that you work for, you've got to be the ambassador of that organization. You're the evangelist of that business. Also yourself. Sellers care about putting food on the table, getting paid, having a good reputation. But the customer cares very much about the exact same thing. They can't just pick a project willy-nilly. They can't just respond to your email and sign off. So it's about building a relationship, building trust, but you've got to make sure that you're looking for ways to bring other people with you along for the journey, whether that's colleagues or clients, and making sure that they understand what's in it for them, how they're going to win. And that's why every negotiation is about the give get. It's
Right.
about what is everybody going to give, but also how is everyone going to win. And if you come with that mentality of bringing people along, being inclusive, bringing people along for the journey, and everyone winning, you have a lot better probability of success.
Exactly, because when you do that, my take has always been, Carson, is that when you build relationships and you do it the right way, you have a long-term business relationship, which means business for hopefully years to come, right? When you don't do that, all you have is an order. And when all you have is an order, while that feels good that moment, that may be gone. That may be one off, right? That could be gone tomorrow without doing the rest of the things. And if you don't, I've always found if you don't have that interview, if you will, with the customer, and I think it has to go both ways. And I'd like to know your input on this. I need to interview you as you're interviewing me because this needs to be a fit for both of us, right? If it's not a fit for both of us, I might get that order. But if you didn't fully understand what we can do for you, or I didn't understand what you needed from me, that's going to fall apart, right? And so I think it's really important that you have that interview process with each other so that when you get done with this whole deal, we walk away kind of thinking and hoping that we're going to do this for a long, long time. So that's always maybe that's old school. Is that old school or new school? Or is that full-time school? What is that?
I think it's the school.
Okay.
It's those principles are never going to go away. I think Randy, you hit the nail on the head. It's there's a lot of analogies that you can make to really any relationship of value or even dating. It's important for you to get to know one another and what matters to the other people. I do a lot of coaching and training, and I always tell people, whether it's people that are in individual contributor roles that work as part of a team, or it's talking to people that are talking to clients. You've got to make sure that you understand and stay at the pulse of what matters to those people, and that you're constantly trying to define and redefine what is a win to them. You're so spot on about there's an area that we sometimes do a bad job of is the management of both short and long-term priorities. Now, there's absolutely times where I need a deal, right? I need a deal now. I've got to hit my monthly or my quarterly bucket, and maybe as a rep, there's pressure from above to get that number, right? But at the same time, you don't want to cut your nose to spite your face. You don't want to close the deal now and sacrifice a long-term relationship that could matter. But if you do it right, and there is mutual respect and mutual trust and transparency with that client, I've had very good relationships in the past where I've been able to reach out to those clients and say, just they understand, right? They
Right.
understand these are the times of year, or the seasonalities, or these are the investments that you could make that are going to help me. But what are they getting in return? So if you look at that, that's not a transactional relationship. Sure, a transaction might take place, but
Right.
because you've invested the time, energy, and value in that relationship, you can actually get the transaction, the short-term win, because they understand what gets you paid, what helped you, and they know that if they help you, you're going to help them. Now, the other thing that you said there that was very important, Randy, that I want to make sure is that we focus on for a moment, is that there is a long-term element, to all of this. In an ideal world, we've got relationships with clients where you know each other's spouses' names, kids' names. You care that they had, or their parent had surgery last week, and you're having a conversation of a personal nature. You read it all the time. People buy from people. People
Correct.
do business with people. And that's the other thing that I think we all need to remind ourselves is just because they have a title of CEO or COO or CFO, they're a person. They care about a lot of the same things that you care about. And I think that's why we need to take that approach, look for ways that they can win, make sure that they understand, what matters to you, but you're going to get there by understanding and caring about what matters to them. What's going to get them a win? What kind of pressures are they getting? And how can you deliver value to make that piece better for them? Because if you deliver wins, they're going to deliver wins for you too.
Well said. Well said. So, really, delivering or problem solving versus a product, right? That's another way. I think I hear what you're saying, and an area that I've always come for is you can, as a rep, as a sales guy, we could handle different products, but are they really buying the product as much as they're buying the confidence that we're going to take care of them, the confidence we have in our manufacturer, our supplier, who that is, and do I understand, Carson, what you want, and I'm here to make sure you get in the long haul what you need. That's more they're buying than just this widget, right?
There's a lot of variables, Randy, and I think you hit on some of them very articulately. Look, we go in oftentimes thinking that there's one primary variable, and it's price, or it's quality of product, and we try to go in touting that. And I think that's where the challenge is sometimes, where we miss the boat, is we go in saying, hey, we've got the best price, or hey, we've got the best quality. People have told me many times that they bought from me, even though it was considerably more money, because they knew that every time they picked up the phone and called me, I answered. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't answer, I called them right back. And if I didn't call them right back and they emailed me and they asked me a question, I got on it right away. And that dependability, there's a lot of variables. And again, it's not every customer is going to have those same variables, but there are certain things that will matter a great deal. Now, sometimes it does. It comes down to budget. And even if they love you to pieces when you're going to sporting events together, they still have to go with the competitor because they were told, I got to hit this number. Now, ideally, if you have a good enough relationship with them, they may give you one last crack at it to meet their price before they sign with the competitor. And that's the X factor, right? That's why the relationship matters so much. But you are so right, because there's so many different variables as to why people buy and how they buy. They're going to make decisions based on a number of factors, but they have their own sales trinity. They're getting, their organization is telling them what factors they need to care about. At the same time, they may be going out to a wide array. Let's say they're talking to 5 other companies. On paper, that means you have a 20% chance of winning. So what are you going to do to increase your probability? You're going to do that with what I like to call the hustle stats. You make great sports analogies, Randy. I like to call it the hustle stats, chasing after that loose ball and running after every ground ball. I think the key that we miss sometimes is that on paper, there's a probability of something transpiring, and the only thing that you can do is increase or decrease that probability based on how attentive you are to the customers and their needs.
Beautiful. Well said. I like that. I wrote down hustle stats. I like that. I might use that somewhere.
Feel free. I love it. Hey, please.
So what about 2020? And I hate going backwards, but I think the good thing about going backwards is, like we talked about losses, you figure out what you learned, and then you get the rest and put it. I look at the, I have this little weird, you're familiar with apothecary shops and apothecaries, all the little drawers. I like to look at, extract the wins out of it, then walk up that ladder to the top one, put it away now, lock it, walk back down, and go out and throw that in the sewer. It's gone now, right? It has to be gone. So, but with that, in 2020, for Carson, what did you learn out of 2020? What was the big win out of 2020? Because there's a lot of bad things, right?
Yeah.
But there's some good things too, right? I mean,
without a doubt. And it's so the song "He Got Game" by Public Enemy. They say, "Don't let a win get to your head or a loss to your heart." That's words I live by. 2020 was. Here's the thing. It was a great year for me, personally and professionally. We were blessed with our 3rd child, and, Salesman on Fire came out, did a lot of things with my church, but also work was wonderful. I made a lot of great new relationships, and kind of cosmically, I joined the healthcare field within Microsoft just prior to a pandemic. So the learning that I was able to have over this past year, the people I was able to be exposed to, and the tiny little cog in the wheel that I was in the grand scheme of things, that was very rewarding for me. But at the same time, I think to your point, Randy, we can't dwell on any of that. I've got things I have to do today. I've got things that I've got to build for tomorrow. And so you take little nuggets, right? I am very motivated by my losses because I don't want to lose again, right? So I take the learnings that I've had from those losses, and what that gives me is that gives me foresight because I can see things in some ways before they happen. I know preventative measures to take that might have sidelined a previous deal, or that might have been a red flag in a relationship with a client. I can see those things now
Right.
very clearly because I have that experience. I got 2 decades doing what I do. So being able to see those types of things, knowing where I lost before and applying that knowledge, that helps me tremendously. But I also can't sit on my laurels just because I won an award or
Right.
because I had a book come out. You can't
Right.
just stop moving. You can't just say, oh, okay, well, I won the award this year. I'm finished. Work like that because I still have a family to provide for. I still want to add value and have an impactful and meaningful life. So, I want to continue to do those types of things. So 2020 for me was a win in a lot of ways. I also know that it wasn't for a lot of people. So I also proactively sought out people that were, hashtagging open to work and just trying to see where I could make things happen for them. I actually very successfully got several people hired at organizations just by connecting people that I knew that were looking with people that I knew were hiring. And little things that I feel like I can give because I've been very fortunate in my career. I'm always looking for ways to try to help other people.
That's awesome. And that's awesome. So the, share with you the biggest thing that I believe that I got out of 2020. I had a great year too, but the funny thing about December 31st at 12 o'clock, besides the little ball dropping that nobody saw. So the question is, if nobody saw it drop, did it really drop? It would, right? But with that said, at 12:01, I had 0 sales this year, right? So to your point, you start over again. And hopefully, if you're doing things right, you're not starting from 0 because you've got things in the pipeline. You've built towards that. You're not starting over. But the biggest thing I learned was I adapted a lot in 2020. Massive difference from what I was as the hard-driven road warrior, airplanes every night, hotels, traveling. I adapted a lot. But even more so important than the adaptation I did is I convinced and taught myself that I can adapt. And I came out of 2020 as what I like to call the adapter for myself, because that's probably the biggest thing I came out of is bring it on now, whatever it is. And the other thing, and then we're running up against the clock shortly here, but the other thing I've had to teach myself is done versus perfect. And I have a hard time sometimes with that because you want everything. Like I do a lot of videos. I do a lot of videos for posting, a lot of videos for customers. I go over and over and over because I could have said that word right, or I could have did that. And at some point, not just in videos, but in everything we do, done sometimes is better than perfect, because I don't think with Tom Cruise getting $26 million with a movie with thousands of people around him would not sit in his living room some night with his wife and say, boy, I sucked right there, right? So what do you think of that real quick? We got about a minute and a half before I want to get you out of here for your next call, but make any sense, or am I off base there?
No, Randy, had a blast today. You're spot on. We are kindred spirits. I've always prided myself in being a perfectionist, but I also know that very often you can't be when you take a very broad stroke at a lot of different types of activities. And I think one thing that I've learned over time is how to include more people, how to bring more people into the boat with you. And if you're part of a very collaborative nature, like working on a project, working on a movie, making videos, you've got a team, you've got people that you can rely on, and you don't have to be perfect every single time out of the gate. Because if the harder you work to try to frame something up perfectly, the more time you're spending on that and investing, and time is the greatest resource. It's time that you could be spending elsewhere trying to drive up new relationships. I used to lead a division at AT&T years ago, and a lot of these folks would spend 30 minutes to an hour prepping for one call because it might have been, a big potential client or whatever it was, big organization. And my philosophy has been just pick up the phone and dial, because you want to get somebody on and talk to them. And you know what happened more often than not is they spent 30 minutes prepping for a call. They called, nobody answered, and they never talked to that person. So you're priding yourself in being a perfectionist. You know everything. You're armed completely to the gill to call and have that conversation. But if nobody's on the other end of the line, what difference does it make? And so that's why I've always tried to be a person of action. And if somebody needs something, I tackle that, prioritize, make sure that I'm controlling what I can control, but at the same time, genuinely just try to connect. And I believe firmly that if you focus on making the connection, making a genuine connection, investing time and investing value in those relationships, that's what's going to make something good happen. So you're right. It's not as much about being a perfectionist because wonderful things can happen from just going out and doing and
just
learning.
Go do it. Exactly. Carson, I know you got a call to make. I appreciate you being on. This was every bit as good as I thought it would be, or better. I knew you'd bring the juice, buddy. And I appreciate it. And
I had a blast.
Anything else you want to say before I let you go off to your next call and make some money?
Now let's do this again, Randy. I had a blast. I really enjoyed this a lot. Thanks for the opportunity. And I guess what I would say is slow down. Slow down, take each moment at a time, optimize each moment. Don't worry so much about what's ahead because we have no control over a lot of things. And I think the more you focus on living in that moment, optimizing it, taking care of your priorities, people, and focusing on evolving a process, you can't help but be successful. And just enjoy. There's a lot of great, beautiful things in this world, so enjoy them as much as you can.
You got it, buddy. Hey, brother, I appreciate it. Thank you. We'll chat soon. We'll do it again.
Appreciate it.
Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
All right. There we have Carson Vincent Heady. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I knew the guy would bring some heat and bring some juice, and he's nice, calm, been there, done that kind of guy. Check out his books if you get a chance. It's I want to give this to you right here. I wrote it down. It's the what does he call it here? Birth of a Salesman series. Birth of a Salesman series. There's 4 books available on Kindle or hardcover, I think, but paperback. Well recommended. Good reads. Follow him on Facebook and any other social media. Thanks, David, Barry, Zach, everybody else that jumped on. I appreciate the support. Hope you enjoyed Carson. And here's a guy that's doing it every day, just like all of us sales guys, right? He's doing it in the trenches every day and been very successful. So thanks for being on Building Wins Live special edition today. We'll tell you, just a reminder since we're here, next week, Tuesday, 12 noon on regular time for Building Wins Live. Don't forget, we're going to have the brothers. First series of some brothers actually coming on. There they are. Tyler and Chris Loading. Jensen Bridge and Supply out of Sandusky, Michigan, and Wauseon, Ohio. I've known these young dudes a long time. You're really going to enjoy these fellas. We're going to have a great chat on Tuesday, 12 noon. Also, just a quick shout out there. I'm going to have another special wins or a special Building Wins Live special edition next week on Thursday. I'll announce later who that is with a nice fancy little promotion that my friend and producer Wes Wyatt will put together. So keep an eye out. Remember, next week, 12 noon on Tuesday and 10:30 on Thursday will be a Building Wins Live special edition. But that's it for now. Thanks again for being here. I appreciate the support. And as I like to say, live it, love it, and own it. And make this your best day ever. Until tomorrow. Cheers, y'all.